I know, mine's working. Want to talk into mine?
Now it's working. We're back for creating effective poster presentations with Dr. Sharon Schaaf. I think most of you have been with us through the rest of her talks, so she doesn't need too much introduction. So we'll start her now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. So Kate and I, the only ones in the room here live, so you guys are all on Zoom. I hope you're having fun out there. Again, if you have any questions, you can drop me a text. I got my phone kind of right here. I'm keeping an eye out when they flash up. Follow me on Twitter at SchaafDNP for any ideas. And I was asked to talk about creating poster presentations, making them effective, and what are some nice ways to put them together. So this may not take the full hour unless you're crushed. So objectives are to describe the use of bullet points for poster presentation, explain the use of images, graphics, and augmented reality for a poster presentation, because I started doing some cool things with that. So first of all, you have to consider, what is your overall purpose for your presentation? Okay, well, why are you doing it? Is it to present your research or a project? I know some of, all of you are nurse practitioners here. Are you working on your DNP? Are you working on a PhD? Maybe some other degree, or you have some other things that you're putting together a poster for, and you want to be able to look, smart and intelligent as you're doing along this. And the other key thing about a poster presentation is to make sure that it's different than maybe standing up here talking, and I have maybe a lot more information, putting a whole bunch of words on a slide, copying and pasting from your paper to your poster, because I have students who do that too, and like clean it up. You want it to be there, but you want it to generate discussion, because at poster presentations, you're standing there next to your poster, and you don't want people just standing there reading, and then you're feeling like, okay, nobody's talking to me. What do I say? Lost my, here we go. Shoot, I said I lost my connection. So you want to be able to engage with your audience with this. So I may have you just, because I lost my connection. Well, I lost my connection to my, here we go. Engage with them and talk with them, because you want to be able to explain things to them, because if you're working on your DNP project or your PhD project or dissertation, data, I know sometimes by the time you're done, you're like, I don't want to look at this again, but you started it because you're very passionate about it, you're really excited about it, and you really want to share your knowledge on that. So that's why you do posters. One of the reasons you do posters. So first of all, when we look at sizing posters, usually there are about 3 typical sizes on posters that the conferences will want. They'll want either a 48 by 48, which is huge. I mean, that's 4 feet by 4 feet. A 36 by 48, which is a little bit smaller, but still, okay size, but it's still kind of big. Then you can do 24 by 36. Now, is there a size that's best or whatever? For me, if I'm traveling somewhere, I look at 2 things, cost and travel. So a 24 by 36 can cost me about $30 to $40 to go ahead and print. If I jumped up to a 36 by 48, I'm looking at over $100. I don't even know what a 48 by 48 is. I don't even look at that high. I'm like $100. Like, for how long I'm going to be there? Is it, what's my cost benefit ratio? I guess that's what I look at. If I'm traveling somewhere, I'm like, what fits in my luggage? Right. So I usually do a 24 by 36. It's a fine size. It's nominal cost for standing up there for maybe an hour, and so it's a decent sized poster. It's kind of, even though it might be smaller than 48 by 48, it still draws people in. So then you have to maybe look a little closer and go, But again, it's all on how you design your poster. Okay. But I like that size just because of cost and travelability. Now, that being said, those are printed on paper. There's a company out there, I'm gonna tell, I didn't put it in here because I didn't think about it till afterwards. It's called spoonflower.com. SPOONFLOWER.com. And what it is they will print on fabric. So you can actually take your poster, save it as an image, create an account with them, set it to the certain size dimensions, and you can go ahead and have it printed on fabric for you. Again, a 45 by 36 piece of fabric, which is a yard of fabric, normal width of fabric, it will cost you about $20. And it folds up nicely. So those are nice. So I've kind of taken that, and be careful of material. You don't want to get something that's too stretchy, that's going to droop, but you want something that's going to fold nicely in your luggage, and not have creases where you have to iron it out. But just as an option, if you're going to be traveling, you're like, okay, I want to do a big one, but I don't really want to do it, Okay. Kate said she put it also in the chat box. But again, I like the 24 by 36 if I'm printing it out on paper. Oh, and then you have to make sure when you can do this either in PowerPoint or Keynote. What you look is you look at your document, and this is how you change your document size. As I'm kind of showing it right here, but there's a way. Then it'll ask you what's your custom slide size. So that's how you change it. And just remember that if you're doing a 48 by 48, yeah, that's not the screen of my laptop or my iPad. So the font's going to be, even a 12-point font's going to be really tiny. So you make it bigger, and then it gets a little distorted, but I have a little trick for that later on. But that's how you change the custom slide if you're doing it as a PowerPoint or even Keynote. You can do that and set your dimensions. So when we look at a layout, I know I talked about doing lots of words on a slide. Use graphs versus tables. If you have a way you can show a table, to show your data, a graph is better. It's just easier for the person to read and kind of get through and visualize. A table full of numbers is really hard. I showed it, I think, in one of the presentation. I'll show you another one here. You really want to highlight your main findings of your presentation. I mean, there's a lot of background information, your abstract and, methodology and things but you really want to highlight what your main findings are the presentation. Now, a presentation should also, all right, and this is having a United States type culture view, is top left to bottom right. Okay, I know some other cultures right to left. So, if you're presenting, in that different language, it may go that way, or even top to bottom. But in what we usually do, so you want to start at your top, work your way down, kind of like this, in roundabout sort of way, in the different columns. Okay, and you should have at least 2 to 3 columns. It shouldn't all be one just kind of bunch of text all across it. So at least 2 to 3 columns. I've seen 4, which is okay. It all depends on how you need to have your information presented. And your elements should have if you're doing a project or a dissertation presentation, your title, abstract, introduction, methods, results, and conclusion. Now, I've done some that are case studies that are different. I put different information in there. And it's like your background, patient information, diagnostic data. Trying to go down. And that includes like lab results, radiology, patient progression. If you're talking about progression over time, what are your final diagnoses? What's your patient management, and then what's your discussion? So you may have, maybe that may need a few more columns, but that's another type of presentation that you can do. This is a basic template that I use for all of mine. I hand this out to my students. Your titles at the top. Underneath it, you should have your name, your credentials. And then under that, at least your contact information, whether it's email, phone number, Twitter account, LinkedIn account, whatever you're using. But at least have that information in there. And this one I used as a, like a research project. So you have your abstract, introduction, method, results, conclusion, and references. And you can move these all around. You don't have, these are not like stuck in place. You can move them all around as you need to, depending on the information that you have in there. But again, I chose a light background with headers that are dark with light letters. Going, and a lot of my text is going to be black. So I have a black on white color combination. I talked about that in the first one, talking about creating readable slides. You want to have a really nice high contrast. Now, the other reason I choose a white background is because if you're getting it printed, if you choose something with a color or an image or something, if it doesn't come out of that printer just right and it's not smooth, it just kind of is funny. And what we see, remember, what we see on the tablet or the computer may come across differently when you print it out. Okay, so I just usually stick with a white background so I don't have to worry about when they're printing it out if there's going to be any issues with color. And I don't even know if that increases the price, but I don't think so. But it just limits my error of margin, let's put it that way. And I'm going to tell you, I always print it out and I always see one typo. I'm like, oh, even though I think I've got them all. Okay. So, and when you do this, you also want to make sure you're just using bullet points. You don't want to, and I see this a lot, is they'll copy their whole first paragraph of their introduction and put it under their abstract or introduction or something. I'm like, brief bullet points, 3 to 5 words, maybe a sentence, but and it doesn't have to be a run-on sentence, really short, brief to the point, because people are just going to glance at it, look at it and go, oh, okay, and kind of follow. That's why you need to have that top to bottom, top left to bottom right flow, because that's how people read. And you just want bullet points. Now, like methods, I have bullet point or graphic image, because sometimes if it's a process and you want to show the process, it's better with an image, and that's fine. Okay, versus step 1, 2, 3, 4, that gets kind of boring. So you want to kind of liven it up a little bit. You want to use at least part of your, half of your poster, I'm sorry, should be at least 50% with graphics and images. Okay. And then your results, again, you can use some bullet points, graphs and tables that outline the results, but this should focus on this. This should be really the main point of your poster. What did you find? They want to know, hey, was it real? And then conclusion, what did you conclude about it? Again, bullet points. And then you can include references, but if you have enough that the other takes up so much information, you don't have to include the references. You can have it as a handout. You can put a reference list and have it as a QR code, so then they can view it that way, which is kind of nice. But this is a basic template that I follow. And then I may change the color of the bars, where it says abstract introduction. I may change that a little bit. So again, it goes talking about design, use a white background, use a dark font. Okay, now you can use black. Sometimes I just use a dark blue just to add that softens it a little bit. Your poster should be visually interesting. Don't make it so busy that people are like, I don't want to read all that and then wander on by. You really want to pull them in. So that's why we say use a lot of graphics on there, because then you can, oh, I see that. Let me take a look at that. Use photos, graphs, schematics, illustrations for, again, up to 50% of the poster. Leave lots of open space. You don't have to cram stuff in there, because then people just kind of blow by. And your font size should be at least 18 to 24. 32 is ideal. I may use, like, if I have room for references, I might drop those down to a 16. Because that's okay. Because when you think a 16-point font, you've blown it up to 24 by 36. It shows up differently than at the back of the room. Okay, so I put in some examples of, all right, I'm a creepy person because at conferences I go around, I take pictures of posters. Because I like to look at, okay, what did they do that I liked? What did they do that I don't like? What will I use in the, what would I consider using on mine in the future? Or what, I'm like, no, I make sure I don't do that in the future. So here's one. And I just kind of blocked off the top, so it was de-identified just to. So what's something that you maybe notice about this particular poster? I bet it has something to do with water.
Yeah,
Way too hard to read.
yeah.
It's very hard to read. It's busy. Now, I mean, it may be a little blurred just because of when I took the picture, but there's a lot of information on here. It's hard to read that dark black font on that image in the background. Okay, and we have tables at the bottom. And it talks about, mean standard deviations, TRF, p-values, and things like that. And it talks about the values, but it doesn't really highlight which ones are the important ones. Like if it reached statistical significance, in the second column that says college grade, looks like the p-value is less than 0.05, but they didn't make it stand out. I mean, that seems to be like a statistically significant finding in this poster. Recommendation that I would use for this one is if they really wanted to use this background, this image, decrease the opacity, okay? Maybe drop it down to a 10 to 20%. So it's just gently in the background, but not so much that it detracts from the information. That's what, that would be one recommendation. Because at the top there, where you see the top of the water and it lists kind of the names and where they are, you can't even really read that clearly because of the gradation. And I talked about that in my first presentation. Now these tables, sometimes, I mean, in papers, yeah, we have to present it in this way, but what might be a better way to do that? I haven't read really the whole poster. I'm just looking at this visually. Is I would really highlight where the statistical significance was achieved. I would do that. Does the other information need to be achieved, or could it be presented in a different way? Okay, but again, if it was a graph, then it might be fighting with the background. Okay. Here's another one. This is a 2-column one. We're looking at, again, the purpose, method, results. Okay, the background is okay because what they did was they used, they picked a background and then they created like a shape to then put the information in, that's reasonable because they still have some color in the background, but they've managed to make it so it's easy to read. They've got some nice graphs and images there to use. As I look at the bottom, all right, the purpose is a big long sentence. I think it's, hold on, 3 sentences. Bullet point those out. If you really wanted that information, just at least bullet point them out so it's easier to read. So do we need alongside population aging, the older adult population with multiple chronic diseases has grown rapidly? Okay, that's a sentence. I would get rid of that first part and just say older population with multiple chronic diseases has grown rapidly. Boom, that's a bullet point. Next sentence, I'm not sure it necessarily needs to be clearly in there, but I mean, they're talking in South Korea for this particular poster. Boom, this is a purpose. In South Korea, almost no studies have investigated these factors. I would have reworded it that way. Really keep it bullet pointed. Same thing with their method. Bullet point it. Results, I think, look good. Again, they're statistically significant ones. Maybe bold them. That might be a better way to do it. Same thing with some of their other tables. Just to make it a little bit easier to read and understand. Because sometimes we walk by posters, we're like, what does that mean? And again, the conclusion, again, just really more, just keep these more bullet pointed than anything else. Okay, here's another one. Again, it's probably blurry because when I took it, I was like, I try to be incognito. I try to kind of go like click, not like, oh, I'm going to take a picture of yours. I kind of click. Okay. But again, a lot of these, it's 3 columns, looks not too bad. But again, your background, introduction, results, discussion, and nursing, the bullet points. You really want to light a lot of white in the background. They have the references at the bottom, which is nice. Their contact information. Their table has information in it. If they had maybe a brighter white font, I'm not sure it was truly white, might have been yellow or something like that against that. It might have been more contrasting. And I think they could have used larger size font. And they put some images, which I think are related to the topic. I haven't really read the poster. And then, they have all that information in a little pie chart. Okay, really make your results, put key findings, put them as graphs or image or, some schematics or something like that. Maybe the methods and materials, the methods might be a process. Here's another one. Again, they have a good white background, dark font, but again, more bullet points. More bullet points. The results, as I'm reading them, seem to be more under conclusions. And then, they have some tables up at the top. But I think it just needs more white and a little bit more bullet points. Here's another one. Again, it has a gradation background, which I'm always shy of, but again, they did it nicely with the squares and putting that overlaid over the background. They just want a little bit of color, which is fine. And I think they used bullet points very nicely on this one. I just think it could have used more graphs and pictures, images. But this one, it's not a bad one. I just would have used more pictures on this one. Okay, so then, so what's one way to incorporate, we talked about this in the previous session. When you're going from digital to paper, there's something that's lost in translation, because there's sometimes you want to show dynamic changes. You can do it digitally, but it's challenging to do when, okay, I have to print it out on my poster. Okay, so use augmented reality, and it's easier than you think it is, and it's free. That's what I like, free. Okay, so I use ijackapp.com, and the creator.ijackapp.com is the one where you actually can create them, but the other one is the main page, and it kind of shows you what you can do. Now you can upload unlimited free artworks. I'm not an artist or a virtuoso by any means. So I can publish one panel. I have 100 free views a month. I'm not any more popular than that. I'm at a conference continuously. I'm not doing conferences every month. Okay, if I was doing that and I had a lot of people going around, but if, for me, 100 is enough. I can do up to 30 seconds per piece of artwork and up to 3 megabytes per panel. And that, for me, that's enough. And I think for a poster presentation, that is enough. If you need more, I want to see yours and, where you're at, I'll stalk you. Okay, but yeah, augmented reality is a nice way to do it. I did this in the poster presentation I did in December. So this was mine. So you can see I have a nice white background. I have a blue border. Actually, when you notice it, mine was on social network, social construction of knowledge, and nurse practitioner competency. And this is my dissertation. I saw my title, I have my name, my credentials. But I did this because discussion boards are done on a computer. So I kind of have a little computer kind of thing, have the 3 dots in the corner and, hey, we're on a discussion board. So I kind of did a little theme with it. but again, it's a white background, but I have blue way behind it just to give it a little bit of a border. Blue's my favorite color, so I do a lot with blue. But you see my background, asynchronous online discussion, and it's not necessarily my, I didn't put my abstract, but I put my background, and I put a little bit more on the topic of asynchronous online discussion because there are some important points I wanted to get across. What were my research questions? These were my frameworks. I always put my frameworks on there, only because they made me do 3. 1 would have been nice, but I had to do 3. And so I put them together, kind of triangulated in the image, how they all connect, and a graphical image of them. You know, social network theory is how people connect. So I have that image there. Let me do this right here. You know, kind of showing how, you know, networks are together. Social constructivism. Hey, we're all talking, hopefully sharing knowledge. And then I put the synergy model for patient care. I didn't create that one. That was, you know, directly from the document that they have it there. There's my methodology, again, bullet pointed. What was my instructional design? What were my results? And again, I'm like, oh, really? I have that there. I have a graph, and then I have a table with numbers. I'm like, okay. And I could read you those numbers, but do they really mean anything to you about looking at competency, interaction analysis model, betweenness, I mean, social network numbers? What do those numbers really mean to you? And then I have my conclusions there at the bottom. But you notice on where I have research question 1 and research question 4, I have a QR code, okay? So if you want, you can download the iJack app. You can go to your phone and you can download it. Hold on, let me get done. Now I can't do this on the screen per se. So these are the 2 items. So what I've done is I went through iJack. I go in there, I create it. They give me this QR code. They also give me, all you have to do is take, they've embedded the information in the image. Okay. So then it will come to life. When you scan the QR code, it'll come to life, and on both of those. So if you want to, you can do this on your screen at home. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be in paper. I can still use mine. Really? Where do I have my iJack app? There it is. See if you can scan it. You have to uncover my camera. I don't know if you can do it from here, but yeah, I know if you're at home on your laptop, you can do it. So you might want to go to my laptop and do it. All you have to do is point your camera at the QR code and you should see the animation. I can't do it on here. And I think we've seen this animation before. Amber's doing that over here on the other one. Oh, here. Did it, was it going?
No. It's like blurry. Did you get it to go?
Oh, it does it on this one. Oh, and then when it plays, actually on the bottom, when it plays, it actually has a, do it up there. On the bottom one, it has an image and then it has audio along with it. The top one. Yeah, see, so it just pops up right in front of it. I had the other one, I might have captured the wrong image. That could have been me. But yeah, so it's a nice way to go ahead and add that little touch of extra, because I would think I was the only one at the conference. I was like, hey, I'm the cool one. But it adds a little bit. If you have something you want to show time or something over time, and I'll have to see where I have it saved. I have it in my other presentation earlier, that's why. And it just showed how things move in the network. But the other one translated that table into a graphical image, and I was able to include audio in it, which was really nice. And then I explained how things go, you know, like the people who have betweenness, closeness, and eigenvector, if you know what those terms means, you know, are more competent where they are, and it makes sense when you look at it when they're in the image. But that's kind of what I have for poster presentations. Keep it simple. Don't go overboard. Start using a little bit of augmented reality. I wanted to use it, but I also had to be careful that when I was using it, I wasn't using it just to use the technology. You want to use it appropriately. I mean, I could have done like where it had the, I wanted to do this. So like this right here, I wanted to have it and maybe have it like swirly and motion movement. And then I was like, that'd be cool. But I'm like, it doesn't add to the poster and it doesn't mean anything. So that's why I went with this item and this item, because then you can see how the social network analysis changed over time. And then it helped clarify what it was in that table. So there was another poster that I looked at that they were talking about simulation. I said that would be ideal to have a QR code if they had not just captured a static 2D image, but a movie, and put a tiny clip in as augmented reality. That would have been really cool, because then you could have seen, it's, you know, if we were talking about collaboration or whatever, then you could have seen in better detail how they were connected. I think it just would have added to the poster. So any questions on that, especially using augmented reality? I mean, it's really easy. They walk you through the steps. All you have to do is, again, in the past when I talked about animated GIFs, create your animated GIF, upload it, poof, and they do all the work for you. It takes like 30 seconds to do, which is really nice. You missed the coolest part. Anyway, so I know. Kate's in here and she's saying she did the QR code thing and she thought it was pretty cool. Any comments on that? I'm kind of waiting for any text messages or anything like that. I don't know if there's anything in the chat, but and if you're interested, I know my phone number's on the front. If you have questions about using maybe something like that in a poster presentation, or the other thing too is if you're working on your DMP project or PhD dissertation, you want to publish, think about adding a QR code in your dissertation so people could then have more than just printed on paper when they're reading your paper or getting it published in a journal. How many times, I mean, I think about this as when I'm, you know, reading one of my cardiology journals and they're showing pictures of a heart cath and it just shows a static image. How neat would it be to have a QR code that can scan it, and then there's the movie, the actual cine movie showing, oh, the blood flow comes down, oh, there it stops, you know. Or when we're looking at the electrophysiologist, when they're mapping the ventricle and they're looking at, you know, the electrical flow in the heart and all that stuff, you know, was when they do their EP studies. But how cool would that be to be able to see that versus a static image, which sometimes it just doesn't add to it. So I'm trying to think what other types of things, but yeah, I mean, if you're thinking of publishing, man, consider using a QR code. And then I mean, all you're doing is putting your image, your embedded image there, and it'll do it for you. That would be so neat, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. And make you look cool too. We're all about looking cool. Okay. All right. Any questions about this? You're free to contact me about it. I'm, you know, happy to, you know, provide you with some ideas or some other things, at least putting them together. But keep it simple. It doesn't have to be rocket science. And while it may not be flashy when you first glance at it, it's, you know, it's those extra little things that we can add to it. So anyways, if nobody has any questions, I guess so. 45 minutes almost. Yeah, so I'm good. We're good. There we go. Thank you. I know it's probably, you're probably ready for lunch. I know I am. Yeah, enjoy your lunch and enjoy the afternoon session. I'm doing also a talk on 12-lead EKGs and clinical correlation. I'd say I hope to see you there for that, but I won't see you. But I hope you're staying safe and well wherever you're at. All right, thank you.